Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Thamriyell and welcome to Deathknight in a nutshell. Deathknights, out of all the other classes that are on Warlords of Draenor, have not been changed by a lot, but been pruned to be better. And I'm gonna explain you why. Let's start off with overall changes for Deathknight. The big changes that they did is they took away Necrotic Strike, which is, I believe, a lot of Death Knights love to use in order to make sure that healing classes and classes that could self-heal would not self-heal as much. But that is gone, which, although it does sound depressing, and it does sound like it could make Death Knights kind of bad in, I don't know, arenas and rated battlegrounds, it's actually not that bad. Trust me, Death Knights, you are well set off. The amount of damage you'll be dealing in Warlords of Draenor is enough to make up for loss of Necrotic Strike. So let's talk about the three major additions to the Death Knight. Those are the level 100 talents. First, Necrotic Plague makes all your dots, all your Frost Plague and Blood Plague turn into just one Necrotic Plague, which is a disease that deals Shadow Frost damage per stack and stacks up every 2 seconds. It gets stronger and stronger, and with every stack, it also bounces to friendlies around the target that has Necrotic Plague. So if you remember Necrotic Plague from the Lich King raid, it just bounces from target to target, infecting more and more enemies. And if I may say so, it just spreads AIDS everywhere. I know this is not the best word to use for a dot in World of Warcraft, but this thing is so infectious, it spreads all over the place and just infects everybody around them. Necrotic Plague can only be reapplied after it is off. You cannot refresh Necrotic Plague, you have to wait until it runs out in order to refresh it again, which is honestly not that bad. Just use Plague Strike or Icy Touch or something, that will do it. Defile. If you remember, again from the Lich King raid, the big black AoE that would just grow as more people stood on it and just do more and more damage, same thing. It replaces your Death and Decay, you put up Defile, the more people that are in there, the more damage it will do, and it'll actually grow bigger and bigger, and all the enemies that are standing in Defile deal 10% less damage to you. So this thing would be great for RPGs, this thing would be great for 2v2s and 3v3s, this thing would be great for anything because it would just keep applying the pressure onto your opponents. This thing is great, and I personally love to use the Ashran. And then Breath of Sindragosa eats up your wounding power, but shoots out a Breath of Sindragosa. Deals damage in a cone of fire, and causes you to be healed for 5% of spell damage dealt by afflicted enemies. So really got a lot of versatile choices of what ability to have for the Death Knight. Alright, let's start with each spec one by one. Frost Death Knight. Frost Death Knight still feels great, still feels the same. There are not really a lot of changes for Frost Death Knights, so you won't have a problem playing them in Warlords of Draenor at all. So just jump in and start playing. Choose your level 100 talent. I personally prefer Breath of Sindragosa, but it's because it's more a Frost DK type of talent. And go in and go ham. Unholy Death Knight is in the same situation as a Frost Death Knight, still does great damage, still does a lot of cool DPS, doesn't have Necrotic Strike on it, but that's not a big deal because now it actually, at least to me, I have played a little bit of Unholy during Mists of Pandaria, and I'm still playing a little bit and trying out different abilities here and there, and for some reason, for me at least, the rotation didn't really make sense. It seemed a little too wonky, seemed a little too made up, at least for PvP. For PvE it seemed decent, but for PvP to me it seemed like it just kind of be mushed together, and it's like, whatever goes, here you go, press any of these random buttons and something will happen. But on Warlords of Draenor it feels like the rotation has been fixed, it's been edged out, it's been detailed and smoothed out, and there are actually specific priority of abilities you have to use. It's not all about just like, oh, Blood Bowl, Blood Bowl, Blood Bowl, Blood Bowl, because that's been kind of nerfed. Now you have to actually rely on doing a lot of single target damage and doing a decent amount of AoE damage, and if you grab Defile, you already got your AoE covered. So I personally grab Defile as my Unholy Death Knight, but if you don't want to grab that, if you would like to grab Necrotic Plague, you also got AoE covered, because that thing which is going to spread to everybody, like I said before. It's so infectious. But Unholy Death Knight feels awesome. They took away Unholy Might as a burst ability, but added as a passive, so now Unholy Death Knight will still be able to do great damage. But I mean, you still got your Ghoul, you got your Dark Transformation, you got your Gargoyle, so you got enough burst to last you. Don't worry about it, Unholy Death Knights. If you never tried Unholy Death Knight, or you had frustrations with playing Unholy Death Knight before, you might want to try Warlords of Draenor, because it feels fantastic. Blood Death Knight, thank God, has been fixed, it's been balanced out, don't worry about it, it's not anymore of this tank that can just 2v1 people like I did in this video, but it's still is a tank class. It's still a viable tank class and is able to take a lot of damage and is able to chase people down pretty well and just keep harassing them and keep doing decent amount of damage. Not as much damage as a Frost Death Knight or as a Horn Death Knight could do, but definitely be able to do decent damage for a tank. It's kind of like the dark version of Prop Paladin, but doesn't use a shield, just use a two-handed weapon. It's kind of cool. But I really enjoy the fact that tanks are being now utilized in PvP and are able to be viable again in PvP. It's really cool. The overall healing and survivability of the Blood Death Knight has been balanced out, so it kind of makes sense now. It's not just, oh, it's overpowered and never dies at all, but it's kind of cool to see Blood Death Knights being able to be viable in raiding and PvE. I've done a little bit of dungeons here and there as my Blood Death Knight, and they feel pretty great in overall raiding. So actually, all three classes feel pretty good in raiding and dungeons. Sadly, I do not have any gameplay to show off raiding and dungeons, but I guess you're just gonna have to trust me there. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you're looking forward to the Death Knight class. Let me know what spec you're gonna be playing it in Warlords of Draenor, or if you're gonna be trying a Death Knight in Warlords of Draenor. My name is Thamriyell. Rate the video, subscribe, and as always, have a great day.